Manchester United draw 0-0 with Leeds United in the opening pre-season game of our summer and season. Plus, the Here We Go has landed. Marcus Rashford will join Barcelona this summer. Hit the like and the share button, people. Let's do this. Welcome back to the show. Make sure like buttons are hit. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure you've got the bell notification button turned on as well. United have just completed their first 90 minutes of pre-season. We're going to talk to you about that. Plus, the big breaking news, Rashford to Barcelona. Here we go. And I think there's a lot of relief within the Man United fan base. Congratulations to Marcus Rashford, first and foremost, to getting that move, because it's what he wants. And, you know, as I've said about Sancho, I have exactly the same energy for Marcus Rashford. I don't want him to, have a bad, I don't want him to have a bad life, a bad career. I want him to go on and do well. It's with an option to buy, not an obligation. So him performing, him delivering should be the top of every Manchester United fan's agenda when it comes to this transfer. But 100% of the salary is being covered. And for me, a few people in our group chats were saying, Terry, are you happy with this deal? Annoyed by this deal? For me, we've got to see what the buy option is. There's some rumors in Spain. It's only 35 million euros. That may be, again, this is where it comes down to how much you're going to knock off the price if you're not covering his wages. What we're getting back this year is £17 million that we're not going to have to spend on Marcus Rashford, and that's going to end quickly. If you then end up walking away with 35 million over the course of 2 years, you've made the better part of £50 million off of the back of the deal. So if we save salary for a year and then they spend 35 million on him, it's similar to them paying 40 to 50 million pound now. So as long as we're in that range, I'm happy with it, because all that money comes back into the club. It can be invested in different players, in better players. So look, it's good. Now it's about Man United going on and investing that money in a new player, because today's performance certainly shows me that we need a striker. Certainly shows me that work to be done, which is how I'm titling the video today when it comes to the when it comes to this game. Because from my point of view and perspective, the performance today was okay in moments. There was a couple of players that I'll get onto in a bit that stood out that I thought looked really good. There's obviously a lack of finesse and a lack of sharpness. It's the first pre-season game. I'm not going to go too far, but there's a handful of players out there again that are just not Man United standard for me. Nothing about today's game changed my mind in any capacity. And we need to buy our way out of that mess. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. But look, for Rashford, as I say, I'm going to get your views on it in a minute. I'm going to go to some of your comments that are coming through. If you want to phone in, feel free to. But I'm really happy with the deal. 100% of the wage being covered. There's talk of 35 to 40 million pound being the fee that comes in a year's time if indeed he performs. So yeah, I'm fairly happy. I could be happier, but I could be happier, but I'm happy enough with that. Hello, Terry watched the match with his eyes closed. See, I don't know whether you're saying it was better than I'm making out or worse than I'm making out. You need to specify on that. Otherwise, we can't have a conversation, because I don't quite understand it, what you're saying there. Barca have finessed us. They will send him back in 12 months. Rashford will see out the last year of his contract and leave on a free. Well, Man United have an option to extend for a year. So you're wrong there, Manny. Barcelona want him. There's an option to buy. If he delivers, then they'll look towards buying him. It also turns out that Barca are not paying him the £325,000 a week that Man United pay him. He's taking a pay cut to go to Barca. Essentially, what's happening here is Man United are paying none of his wages. Barcelona, we don't know what they're paying him yet, but it's less than he's earning at Man United. That would suggest there's a longer-term plan in there. I don't personally see it as a finesse. Could it be better if there was an obligation to buy it? Yes, I won't deny it. but £17 million back in our back pocket. The player moved on. An option to buy reportedly around 35 million. That means if both things complete, you're talking the better part of 50 million, which most people thought we'd never get for Marcus Rashford. And it's decent enough. It's decent enough for me. It's decent enough for me. This here from Lou, who says, well, fuck, if that doesn't make it clear how badly we need a striker, nothing will. And yeah, and I'll say that about today's game. You know, for me, I'd love to know what the person meant by I was watching the game with my eyes shut. Not because I'm precious, but just I don't understand whether you're supporting the team more here and think I'm being harsh, or you think there was nothing good about the game. And that's fine. Because from my point of view, bro, it should be an obligation to buy, not an option to buy. We're not in that. We don't have that. Sorry, I'm going to come back to the game now in a minute because this comment coming in. But we have no power over that. We have no power over it. Barca don't have a lot of money, firstly. Secondly, Rashford's only going to leave for Barca. He's made that abundantly clear. So the irony is this. I've said I'd rather sit a player in the stands and lose money on them. Nah, Terry, we just got to get rid of him no matter the cost, no matter the cost. Now it's an option to buy, people are moaning. What's going on here? 1 minute, it doesn't matter how much we lose on them, we just got to get rid. Now we're not happy with the deal, and we're actually getting more money than if we sold him for £40 million cash today, if the obligation goes through, if the option goes through. Yeah, it's not ideal, but Rashford's going to do very, very well at Barcelona. Very, very well indeed. Plus, if next summer they don't want to buy him, then there's options elsewhere because he won't be limiting himself to Barca if Barca don't want him and he spent a year there. I really wouldn't be crying too much. We also know that a lot of obligations can be bought out of if clubs don't want players. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I think from my point of view, a 30 million buy option. Is it a 30 million buy option? Cool. So that means if they buy him, that means with what they've paid us and what they've saved us, because that's what we're committed to spending right now in our budget, is £47 million. I'm happy with a deal that brings us in and or saves us £47 million on Marcus Rashford, because that's the real math behind this. That's the real math behind this, not 30 million. What we're saving, because we're committed right now in our budgets for this 12 months ahead, we're committing to just giving him £17 million. We no longer have to do that anymore. That can be committed elsewhere. Decent piece of business. Good afternoon, T. Good riddance with Sancho. I really want him to do well so we can get rid of him for good. Absolutely. I mean, if you're a Man United fan, you don't want his loan to go well. Your disdain for Rashford is damaging your own football club if your wishes come true. So that for me would be a crazy way to look at it. That'd be a really, really crazy way to look at it indeed. Jackson to United, here we go. Well, I hope not, because then it's a pointless deal. We might as well look at Rashford, because Marcus Rashford is better than Nico Jackson as a football player. I thought absolutely, yeah. It would be terrible. Absolutely terrible. You know what I mean? Terry always doing real math when it comes to Man United transfers, but never with Chelsea's transfers. But that isn't true, Mike. Now, this is, I'm going to be a little rude now. This is you being a bitch, a proper salty bitch. And I'll tell you why. I'm one of the only fans that's ever sat here and spoke about Chelsea in the sense when everyone's going mad about their money, me speaking about how the way they're spending is one, doable because of amortization. I've had videos that have trended across all social media networks about me defending Chelsea there. I've defended the fact that people don't like the loopholes and you haven't broken any rules. I've also said for years, no matter the financial problems that Chelsea had on paper, as long as they made it into Champions League football, they would be okay. And they have gone and done that. So from my point of view and perspective, I've done the real math on Chelsea many, many times. So to be honest with you, I'm going to push back and say you're being a very salty little female dog. You really, really are. I don't understand how you can sit there and say that when one of the biggest, the most trending clips of mine that's ever been shared was defending Chelsea spending, breaking down the quote unquote real math. I'm also the only football YouTuber that I know of that for the past 7 to 8 years has pushed that net spend isn't real for every single club and every single transfer. So, Mike, you might be trolling. Maybe I shouldn't waste any time on you, but don't be a bitch. Be a man. Don't be a female dog. Be a man, please. Come on now. Let's get it done right. Let's get it done right. Let's have a little look here at some more of your comments. You're missing the guy's point. I'm not missing the guy's point at all. How can I be missing the guy's point when I do the real math for every club? When I always talk about amortization, when I always talk about the actual money being saved, when I've actually spoke about the fact that another one of the things I've said about Chelsea on this channel, and you're going to start to fucking piss me off in a moment. I don't like this bullshit. Really going to fucking piss me off. What I've spoke about as well, why Chelsea can keep spending CFC Chaddy, is because you've reduced your wage bill on such a huge scale. Your wage bill has dropped by tens of millions of pounds over the past 3 years. That enables more spending on players. Why? Because wage bills are typically a much bigger expense year on year than transfer budgets. So, yes, the real math gets done on every single person's club. We're moving on from it now because, yeah, I'm proper rattled. Man said net spend is not real. Accountants will be going crazy. But you're wrong. Net spend isn't. I'm moving on because I'm going to explode. I'm actually going to fucking explode. I'm going to explode. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm moving on. Can we please explain further how by me wishing for Rashford to do well with Barca and us getting rid of him? Sorry. Can you please explain further how by me wishing for Rashford to do well with Barca and us getting rid of him harms the football club? That's not what I said. You didn't listen. What I said, any Man United fan wishing that Rashford does badly and then getting their wish would harm the club. So why would anyone wish for that? It's literally, you didn't say that. It's not aimed at you, Adele, sorry. I literally said anyone who wants Rashford to fail and who gets their wish come true is wishing for the club to be damaged because we may not get the fee at the end of it. Any Man United fan wishing for that, I challenge your love for this football club. Stand on that. I love trolling Little Terry. Yeah, you wouldn't say that to my face, Mike. Trust me, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. But there we go, Little Terry. All right, mate. Terry, are you making the Conference League next year? No idea. Look, I'm going to talk about the game for a moment now. We're going to move on to the game. And 1 second. I think some people are frustrated. I'm somewhere in the middle. There was a lack of sharpness in this game at times. And we kind of had spells in the game where we looked good and spells where we looked poor. Leeds, like the first half, people were moaning about Leeds having possession. That didn't bother me at all. Leeds had the ball in their own half. They were knocking it about tidily, but they weren't penetrating. I think they had one shot, if anything at all. They weren't really trying to attack us. Then Ampadu would have been sent off in a real game. I think he must have committed 5 cynical fouls to stop us counter-attacking when we won the ball back. You've got to factor that in. He wouldn't have been able to do that consistently in a real game. Where preseason games become hard to judge is when you get 15, 16, 17 substitutions at half-time. They're hard to judge as games, and I say this about every club, for Mike who's watching, little Mike, that's abnormal to a real football match. We did lack an element of sharpness, and there was a lack of intensity in our game. That being said, many might challenge me and say, well, look, it's the first preseason game. You don't want to be too intense too soon. You don't want to pick up injuries too early. But the lack of sharpness, the lack of intensity is concerning me right now because I want to start the season fast. I want to start the season on fire. I want us to be the best version of ourselves we can be at the beginning of the season. And I want to see in our next match in 10 days or so, well, less than 10 days, was it 5, 6 days time? We play our next game. I want to see a marked improvement on what we've seen today as a team, because I just didn't think it was good enough overall, in my personal opinion. I want to see a lot more than that. Yeah, we play West Ham on the 27th. So what is that? That's actually 8 days away. So we've got just over a week until we play again. And I know there's traveling involved. We're going to have Burmo in the side. I did also think as well in defense of the United team today. Obviously, he played some of his first team in the first half and some of his first team in the second. I'd have liked to have seen the game with Mainu start in the team. I'd have liked Lenny Yoro on in the first half as an example. I sort of felt as if It's probably by design as well. He's sort of splitting the main starting 11 up somewhat from what we might see for that Arsenal game. So you didn't really get to see the relationships. But aside from that, we should have won the game really at the end. If I'm being absolutely honest, we should have buried that opportunity and chance. But it certainly shows us still where we need to buy. That athleticism in midfield is going to be needed. We need to go and find a player for that. The striker roles, look, Rasmus wasn't... He wasn't at his worst, right? That's me being polite. But again, he did very, very little in that game where you go, okay, is he going to go on? Is he going to grow? Is he going to get any, is he going to develop any confidence from here? He most likely isn't. Chido-Obi, look, there's a player in there. He's just young. And there was that moment in the first half where he takes the ball away from Cunha, who may or may not have scored. We don't know. He didn't strike the ball. But that was just a lack of experience and know-how, which comes with fledgling players in that way. But on Cunha, there was a few heavy touches. There was a few moments where things didn't come off, but he picked the ball up. And I'm looking at Sonshine backstage when I say this, because I want some validation here in what I'm saying. Right? When he picked the ball up and drove past a player, I just smiled. I was like, we've got a player that can pick the ball up and try and run past someone. Because that was our biggest problem in the second half. We got the ball, Mount got the ball on a number of occasions where you go, okay, take your man on. Can't do it. Doesn't have again, I spoke about this so much last year, lacks the explosive speed and power to get past the modern day football player. And I saw that in abundance with the second half substitutions. You saw Mainu come on and improve our midfield, but then you got a young kid whose name I now forget playing alongside Mason, a lack of speed and power. We actually had Dorgu and Delo maintained the width. By the way, I was actually quite impressed with Diego Leon. He was caught out of position a couple of times, but I liked him on the ball. I thought it was comfortable. I liked how he drove forward. I liked his determination. Looking forward to seeing more of him over preseason. But as soon as it's physicality that we need. And those 2-10 positions, having Mbumo and having Cunha next season, I really do think is going to pay some dividends. We just need to improve that striker and more athleticism and technical ability in that midfield. I know we need a new goalkeeper as well. That is absolutely important. But if we can now somehow improve, doesn't mean we have to buy the best players imaginable in world football for those positions. I'm not expecting us to go and sign João Neves or Vitinha. But if we can improve in that central midfield area, the strikers and goalkeeper, I'll be relatively happy based on the reality of our situation going into next season. But Cunha, really impressed with him. I like the look of young Diego Leon. First time I've seen him play. I did think, as I said, I thought that there was some really good link up in the first half. Bruno and Cunha had a good understanding. I thought Ahmad with some really clever little passes. There was that moment where he plays in Cass, who runs from deep and just holds on his run a little bit. So happy in relation to that. And I also, again, thought that Hayden Heaven and Lenny Yoro, for me, they look like our best centre-backs across both halves of the game. Comfortable. There was one moment Lenny Yoro gave the ball away, but they've got that recovery speed. They're good from playing out from the back. I just think, I don't know if the manager's going to do it. And I get why Luke Shaw was playing and everything else. I like Maz. Maz had a brilliant season for us last year. But I'd really like to see start of the season probably deleting that central role. I'd like to see Lenny Yoro and Heaven either side. I just think in the modern day game, they're exactly what you need. This side needs power, it needs pace, it needs athleticism, it needs strength. But you couple that in, that's an important component. But I just look at Lenny Yoro and I look at Heaven, I look at Mainu, I look at these players. They're just so much, that their technical levels are so much better than a lot of their older, more experienced teammates. And I really want to see that happen. I was a little disappointed not to see Kone play today. I was really hoping and really looking forward to maybe seeing him come on and play there. There's talk about him going out on loan. I just would really like to see him given a chance, because I think that, again, profile-wise, he fits what we need. It's whether or not he's ready for that at this particular moment in time. And just like Mainu saved us a lot of money in the transfer market, he could be another individual that if he's ready to even play 10, 15 games this season, it could still be someone that really helps us in the future. So, look, overall, I'm not blown away by today. I'm not sitting there going, the season's going to be amazing. There's still so much to fix. There's so much to work on. Am I panicking? Am I collapsing? Am I right now going, oh my God, it's going to be a disaster? No. You know, I'm just checking on some scores right now. I think Celtic are slapping up Newcastle 3-0 last time I checked. And this is what you'll see over the course of the summer. You'll see certain teams, and by the way, results and performances and fitness and sharpness in preseason is important to start the campaign well. But what you will see by me, this is my message to Man United fans, you'll see this from rivals and you'll see this more so from the mainstream media, is you will see this kind of everything Man United do will sort of be met with like everything's of the utmost importance to win. If you lose a game, it's disastrous. Other clubs won't be treated in that way. You know, Blackburn Rovers are currently beating Everton. They won't be spoken about in the media in that way. 3-0, as you say, 66 minutes in, and Newcastle are getting slapped up there. I mean, oh no, that's Boreham Wood against Tottenham's under-21s, so it isn't against their main team. But I know Tottenham are also playing today. I don't know what the score is in that game. Maybe that was just the under-21s match. But that's my point, right? These things go on. So the performances are more what I look at. Sharpness is what I look at, especially in the latter games. But I'm not going to be throwing my toys out of the pram as things stand right now. Terry, you will struggle next season. It's a fair prediction based on last year. It's a very, very, very fair prediction based on last year. Terry, don't forget when Chelsea finished mid-table, rivals ran riot laughing at us for a whole season. Yeah, they did. But what's that got to do with me? You're here reacting to what I'm saying, not what they're saying. And I criticized Chelsea, but I also pointed out that there was things to be hopeful about for the future. What the way you were operating, the way you were moving, criticize certain decisions, definitely like Chelsea fans did. But yeah, I mean, you should go and say that to them. It's a bit, what's that one of these things, Maximum? Say you turn around and go, I think Man United are going to have a good season. And then Maradon says they're not going to have a good season. Imagine that me and you were talking. I'm like, I'm going to slag your team off because Max said that we'll be bad. You'll be like, well, that's got nothing to do with me. That's why I always find it weird. Some people like say things to me. I go, I don't know where that's come from. Oh, yeah, I saw another Man United YouTuber say that a year ago. Well, fucking go and talk to him then. I like the fact you're here, but it's kind of strange to me. Kind of strange. Let's have a look here at some more comments. Spurs won 2-0. Fair play. Okay, the game's over. That's why I could. Oh, is it finished now? Is that game? Yeah, Spurs won 2-0. Who are they playing today, Spurs? I don't know off the top of my head. I know they were playing. Who they play? I'm just looking now. Wellington beat Wrexham. Jesus. Can't find them. I can't find them. Anyway. Why can't I find the results? You lot probably, by the time I found it, one of you probably told me in the comment section. Reading, there we go. Yeah, fair enough. Playing Reading. So there we go. That's my view. Okay, lots more to improve on. And we go from there. Sunshine is joining me on the show now to have his say. The link is in the comment section if you want to come on and speak. You can speak about the game. You can speak about Rashford leaving, whichever one you want to speak about. Feel free to phone in and have your say. But Sunshine is here with me. How you doing, mate?
Hey, what's good, man? How's things?
Yeah, decent. A nice enough summer.
Yes,
You're not playing football, so the pressure feels like it's mounting up. We'll touch on Rashford in a minute. What did you make of the game today?
Sorry, say that again. It just cut out.
So we'll talk about Rashford in a moment, but what did you make of the game today?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll keep it neutral for the boring lot. Let's be honest, it's a pre-season, so what your expectations are in pre-season, I'm pretty sure a lot of the fan base are expecting a massive turnaround, massive change, a level of energy, goals, style of football being, had consistently, etc., etc. But let's just look at the simplicity of what a pre-season is. It was a standard pre-season game where there were moments for both teams, but at the same time, I think a fair result is a draw in the end. Just for the simple fact that Man United just didn't look anywhere great, but it also looked like they were working on things and trying to understand more specific natures of the game. And then whilst, again, applying that in moments of the game, they were actually trying to, in my opinion anyway, to create stuff from it. So again, I think you spoke about the two different starting teams, first 11s in first half and then the second half. And it would have been better to have those a little bit more quality. Like, for example, you look at Lenny Yoro when he came on and his dictation of the passing and stuff. We didn't have that in the first half. So if you'd applied that to the players that we had in the first half, would we have had a better outcome? But I don't think getting a result was the main focus of any preseason first game. Is it nice for the fan base to get that? Yeah, absolutely. Will it ease, or not, probably not ease, but will it prevent us from going ham and getting all emotional until the next preseason game? Probably, but that's not what preseason is about. Respectfully, it is about getting the minutes in the legs, and so you can only take it in isolation per game in preseason. Preseason, you can have a great preseason and then start this league season and it's absolutely woeful. We've done that many of time, and then we've done the opposite where we've had a poor preseason and started all right in the league. So it's for those who are neutral minded and are able to look at a preseason for what it is. Was it great? No. Was it dire? Absolutely not. Could have won it at the end, etc. But it was almost about them just trying to feel their way back into it. This is their first game back in, and like this or not, you are going to have to forget about last season. Not to the stage of put it under a carpet and forget about it, but forget about it so it gives you the opportunity to look for a new lens for a new season and go, okay, he's getting his players in. We're trying to work with the first preseason. It is his first preseason. So from that perspective, you then have to go, okay, let me have some patience. Doesn't mean agree or disagree with him. It just means let me collect some more information, given the fact that we're in a new season and a new preseason, and then apply it to my logics of last season or change my logics from last season, depending on the results.
Yeah, listen, I hear that completely. I'm very similar to you. I'm not sitting here buzzing of what I've seen. I'm also not panicking either, as you say. I think that if I'm not saying I even disagree with the starting lineup, because I understand exactly why with what he's done. There's a little bit of test and learning here as an example. Equally, I do get the frustration that a lot of Manchester United fans have. I do get it after such a bad season last year. People just want to see improvement, don't they? They want to
Sure.
they want to see the team, go to another level and everything else that comes with it. And I get it. I'm not going to sit there and be sort of dismissive of that, if that makes sense. I totally get why people need that. What did you make of we didn't see much, and again I want to see. I know we can't because you've got to ease these players in, but what did you make of Cunha and his sort of, I know it's not his real debut because it's not a competitive football match, but what did you make of his first appearance in a Manchester United shirt, mate?
Again, I'll give him a 7 out of 10 for the game. Again, those areas of improvement, but I think it was a solid performance given it's his first time there. Whenever a new player comes to any club, forget Man United, but it's in general, and they've got a bit of buzz or hype about them, there's always going to be a level of expectation that you expect. And putting the Man United name back into this conversation and the money that we've paid and the desperation of the fan base and what we need in that attacking area, the expectation has to be, a little bit higher than the norm, shall we say. So given that, I thought he did very well. It was nice, like you said, you saw him driving through with those bursts of pace, which we didn't have that explosiveness in those key areas in the final third, but also his ability to just spray the ball out wide to Ahmed a few times, his link-up play. He seemed to have a very good mature level and understanding of the game, even though he didn't know the players. And that is a good sign to look for when you look at players watching the game, depending on your level of knowledge of football, to see how they can read the game well enough, despite the players that they have around them. It was good link-up plays with Ahmad, Casemiro, Bruno at times. There was already a wavelength that they caught. So that tells you the level of IQ of the man already, which should tell you that he was fit right in. These are key things that I personally look for when I'm watching a derby. Forget the goals and passing, assisting, the stuff that you can clip up and look amazing. I'm looking at the IQ and how he is in relation to the ball, the pitch, and where he is with in relation to his players. And I felt that he had an understanding to the point where he was expecting better from some players, because there were certain areas where, again, we can talk about the Obi situation, but there were other areas when he didn't receive the ball when he should have, and I saw him kicking out like, yo, that was the ball. So already he's switched on to a higher level of thinking, which tells me we've got a very good player on our hands. So yeah, I'm very proud of his first performance, and I think he'll walk off humbly knowing that this isn't anything to take positively or negative. It's just let me get through preseason and show what I can do in the league. So Yeah, I was a big skeptic of Cunha, I must say, beforehand, not because of his talent. Um, had nothing to do with his talent. But I was curious to see whether he'd have the mentality to apply his talent at Manchester United. And so far, I'm seeing a very mature player and highly experienced player on that pitch. So I'm happy to have that doubt kind of wiped off if I see that in the next 4 or 5 games. Like I said, it wasn't to write him off. It was just a fair observation that I felt I had over him, and I wanted to see whether I was right or wrong. So far, based off that performance, I feel like I was wrong to even question it. But like I said, the first 5 games of the season will tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, I understand that. And look, there are some Man United fans online. I mean, I've been sent tweets and stuff like that. You know that I saw a tweet that got sent by put out by Rants, who I think who you and I both know. We both, I think you get on with Rants. I get on with Rants.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, he's a cool. Yeah, I've always got on with him. I don't quite understand it. He says, "I'm glad I didn't waste my time with that match." Probably Amarin probably isn't making it to Christmas. I'm not sure if he means did he watch it. If he didn't watch it, I don't understand how he can. Harry's assessing it. But
I get
you know,
that.
there are some Man United fans that are fuming with today that take pre-season and every minute of it massively seriously. And I do think it's important. But the only thing I always push back on, a bad pre-season can lead to a bad campaign.
Yeah,
it's always hard to judge those games, especially the second half, because in no football match this season will we make 11 substitutions at half time. So it makes it difficult to. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if Lenny Yoro comes on and Heaven comes on and Manu comes on with what was already on the pitch, I think the second half's very different. Equally, you could make the same argument for Leeds United. You know, they made changes too. But where I agree with the criticism of United today, I want to see the performances get better each preseason game, because what I would like is for that final preseason game to go, do you know what? There's a good opportunity here for us to go into that opening game of the season, the opening 4 or 5 matches before the first international break, and start well. Because if we could start with a couple of wins back to back, one, we didn't win back to back all of last season, it would relieve some pressure. And that's the one thing I still noticed, even at preseason today, mate, is our players still look very tense on the ball. I think they know the pressure that's coming this season. So
yeah,
let's see what happens.
I will add quickly. I will add just real quickly, because I think you make a great point. It's good to know that you've got to understand, or even ask the question, shall I say, what form are these players returning back into? Are they in a certain level of shape? Now, there's a level of fitness you can have, cool, but then is there a level of match fitness? And it's 2 different things. So there is a higher scale with match fitness. So some of these players may not be match fit according to what we are expecting, even if we want it. And there's nothing wrong with saying that's what I want from the team. But you also got to give, just like I said, just give that little pocket of window for pre-season to fully go through. Because if it is like you say, we get to end of pre-season, we're looking a lot faster, the ball's moving a lot quicker, the quality on the ball's better in more difficult situations, then I think you'll have a more accurate opinion to form, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that we'll agree or disagree, but I feel like we'll have a lot more information and a lot more qualitative data given what we know these players are now capable of, given their fitness levels, and then we can then have the conversation. If it does get to a stage where there's no improvement, then you're going to start questioning the manager, you're going to start questioning the players and the quality, and then start to go, okay, we can open up that portal for that conversation. And I'm happy to have that conversation as well. But I think at this stage, you've got to get these players up to match fitness, and that is the most important thing. You got to build the foundation first for you to be able to see any form of consistency and quality at the same time. It's the first preseason game. You're not going to get consistency and quality, especially when you haven't got your first 11, all in form. So I'll give it some time.
Yeah, listen, listen. I always give it time through preseason. You know, Amarim though himself has come out and said, I was reading a few quotes that have come from him. He says we have a lack of pace, especially in the middle of the park. You can feel it, and it's true. And I think from my point of view and perspective, speed, power, and pace. I think it became a horrible thing to talk about 5-6 years ago. Whenever you mentioned power and pace, people sort of took a bit of offense to it, especially if you were speaking. For instance, Lenny Yoro. 5 years ago, if you said I love his speed and his power and pace, there was this kind of negative connotation of you only think he's worthwhile because he's physical. No, he's brilliant on the ball as well. But let us not pretend that having good speed, having good power, having good pace in the modern day game that's played at such a finessic speed, it's important. And you could be
Absolutely.
as technically gifted as Paul Scholes, but if too many players in your team lack pace, you're not playing well. You're not playing consistently in the Premier League.
Right.
You can get away with a couple of players that aren't pacey, but you need very quick speed around them. In the midfield, it's why in the second half we look better when Manu came on. But we need more. We need a lot more in that middle, and we need to spend some money in that area. And if we don't do it, you know, we are going to struggle this year in some of those midfield battles. There is no doubt about it, mate. But Sunshine, I appreciate you coming on, mate. And actually, no, I didn't ask you about Rashford. What do you make of the Rashford deal? Because they're covering. It turns out they're covering all these wages, which saves us 17 million. And there's a 30 million option to buy next summer. So in total, if he does well and we
47?
sell him, so 17 million we'll get back this year because we're not paying any of his wages.
Cool.
And then 30 million option to buy in a year's time. So in total, around 47 million pounds it will end up making us as a club.
Yeah, I think that's a great situation. I think a couple of years ago you were looking at 80 to 100 million for Rashford when the talks were there. But I think given constant situation that's going on, one, is it good to get players that the manager and the club don't want anymore, regardless of their status to the club? Yes, absolutely. We've seen incredible footballers play for Man United and leave. So I'm not going to get in my feelings. Feel sorry for those guys who probably aren't as old as us to, see better quality leave the club. We have to move on. That's just normal. But then you look at getting 47 million overall. 30 million is a steal if Rashford has an incredible time at Barcelona, which I do believe he will. I think the pace of the league would be great. And of course, he gets to face Trent Arnold again, wearing a number 19 shirt, apparently. So if that is the case, then Trent Arnold's in for a great day and he'll do well in the El Clasico. And I think we get 30 million for him, but 47 million, Terry, for a player that still has the quality. There's no doubt about his talent and quality, but like I always say, if a player hasn't got the mentality to apply that talent in a situation that is necessary, then the talent becomes null and void. So I think he'll do great at Barcelona, a new environment, a new place for him, but also it will be good for Man United to recoup that money. The best thing about this deal, I'll be honest with you, I think is the financial side of his wages. Getting those wages off the books is incredible. I think he was our top earner or second top earner. I'm not too sure to Casemiro. You may be able to correct me, but
yeah, I think Cash is on three. Yeah, second behind Cash. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah, so you look at it and go, getting the top 5 earners down. Luke Shaw, I believe, maybe in there as well, which is crazy. Mason Mount. If we can get rid of those, we save a lot more money and we can do better deals. Getting players out the door is so important. Jadon Sancho next as well. So I think genuinely them taking all the wages off our hand means that selling for 30 million, even though we could probably sell him for 40 if he has a great season, is a great shout. So yeah, I'm happy with the deal. I'm happy for Rashford as well.
Yeah, and there's a few people in the comments, few people on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter again. He's taking a pay cut, so it's not saving us 17 million. It's like, yes, it is saving us 17 million because we've budgeted this year in our budgets of what we can and can't spend. We have to budget the 17 million for the wages because we are essentially a secured creditor to Rashford. We are in debt to Rashford. We owe him 17 million pounds this year. His loan now means he's taking a pay cut. That's on him. He's taking a pay cut. Barca are paying all of it. Man United now don't have to give him a single penny, which means we save 17 million. And in business, and this is a business transaction, whether you make money or save money, it's the same thing. If you increase your turnover by £1 million, but your expenditure goes up, you may make less money than if you decrease your turnover, but lower your expenditure. And at the end of the day, it works. It's all about the profit and loss that the business makes. That's the real net spend here. So us not having to spend £17 million on Rashford, doesn't matter if he's getting £1 a week at Barca. We are saving 17 million pounds. But again, this is just people looking for it, especially the United fans doing it. Just again, searching for that negative all the time. It's jarring, bruv. It's jarring. It's not the most. It's not the most perfect deal in the world, but it's nowhere near horrendous, in my personal opinion. Anyway,
I think we don't. I don't think we make any more money out of it. I mean, the 30 million. I think they've given him that buyout clause because they've taken the whole wage, because they know how much he saves, and because it's difficult to make money off our wages, and he's one of our top earners. Technically, you're not going to like, well, not you, because I know you'll understand, but fans won't like this. but it actually does Man United a favour, which is why I believe they've allowed the 30 million later on.
Well, this is why it's important to listen to the people in the know on these things. So, for instance, Ben Jacobs gave hypotheticals because you don't know what you don't know.
For sure.
But he obviously talks to a lot of clubs, a lot of agents, a lot of intermediaries about deals. We may have been able to get in Bomo for less, but that might have been shorter payment terms. So essentially, the longer your payment terms, typically speaking, the more you pay in transfer fee. Equally, if you offer cash up front, you can often get players cheaper. So if we actually had 50 million in cash, 55 million in cash, if Brentford need cash, they might go, do you know what? We'll take it because it's a sale. We have the money instantly and we can reinvest it, or we can use that money where we need to. A lot of clubs sometimes have debt issues. They might have all types of things going on. Equally, when it comes to this loan deal, United are probably a little bit frustrated. It's not an obligation to buy. But at the same time, there's a little risk, but it's a risk that could mean we make 47 million. If we sold him now today, it's 40 million, which means you're £7 million shy. So I think Rashford's going to do very, very well over there. I think Rashford's going to deliver. I think they'll pay for him next year. I think he'll move there permanently. I don't personally have any qualms or massive concerns about this. I just wish him all the best. I hope he goes over there and kills it, other than when he's playing against Manchester United, because other than maybe 1 or 2 games a season against us in the future, he's not. I was worried about him joining a Premier League team. I was worried. And what I will say is this on Rashford, very quickly. Yes, you're spot on. The relationship between him and Man United is broken down. It doesn't matter how good or bad I think he is, you think he is, James thinks he is, Flossie thinks he is. He's going to do nothing for a team he isn't playing for. The fact that Barcelona, who are on the up and up, want him, the idea that, and it's funny how all the players that Baller FC liked that have left Man United, most have gone on to do nothing. Most of the players that they said were crap are winning MVPs in Serie A. They're moving to Barcelona. There's something in that. I will say this, Baller FC are taking one hell of a beating on this again today. I will just put that out there. Because you think about all the players that have, like the fact that like the Rashfords and the Antonys are going to end up with better moves than some of Baller FC's players. There's something interesting for me about that we've probably got to explore into on another day. But
I'm game for that, bro. I'm game for that.
There's something about it. Just maybe the eye test is important, but there's a difference between being good and being aesthetically pleasing. And I think a lot of people get those two things. Someone, he looks good making that pass. He looks awkward passing it. But did they both make the pass? Yes. Oh, when he shoots, it looks good, but he didn't score. Yeah, but it looks good. I think a lot of people are attracted to that. Some of these football fans should go watch ballet. That's what they should be into, ballet and dance, brother. Just looking good. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's the Sancho mechanism. Sorry, it's just Sancho mechanism, isn't it? The jinky and everything's all good. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, that's good for five-a-side and cage football. Yeah, amazing, beautiful. Go play futsal or something. Do you know what I mean? If that's what's good. A lot of people will look at futsal players and think they can go on an 11-a-side pitch at Old Trafford and perform, and that's the blindness of them. Sadly, you got to be able to apply your talent, guys. That's one thing I'll always say. And it doesn't matter what sport it is, what you're good at, what your potential is. If you're hyping up potential, you're still hoping for them to show you something. You have to look at their character and their personality and go, can they apply their talent under pressured circumstances at Manchester United whilst the club is toxic and whilst there's a level of pressure and desperation from the fan base? If the answer is yes to 4 of the 5, maybe 3, then their talent is then valid. We can talk about their talent as well. It's a cherry on the top. If not, it's irrelevant.
No, I agree. And Maradon here says, Terry, your stats told us Højlund would score 15 goals. Well, he got around 15 goals in his first season for Man United. However, you're missing the fundamental point here. When I watch a player and I go, I think he's good enough for Man United, or I think he'll be good at Chelsea. When I'm wrong, I go, I got it wrong. The difference here being, everyone who said Rashford's trash and nobody good will want him, no big club's going to buy him when he leaves, they won't admit they're wrong. There is a fundamental difference in what we're talking about here. Sunshine, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. I appreciate it massively. Cheers, mate.
See you soon.
See you, mate. Thank you. And we've got Baz on the show with us now. What are you saying, Baz?
Hey man, yeah. I mean, I'm just like you. I'm not really too bothered about the game. I think it's normal for this first game. Guys are just trying to get their feet under them. They're trying to get used to each other again. They've obviously learned some new things. It looked like they're playing differently. There's a little bit of organization that I saw. Less of that chaos. It's not too much to get into right away, but I could see that they've been working on that, and I'd expect that. I thought that Cunha kind of brings in this another person who brings in some competitiveness into the squad. Like, someone that when a pass isn't good, he looks at you, gives you that stare. Like he really wants to do well, which you'd expect. I think we need to get more of those types of players into the side, and I think they're doing that. But the big takeaway for me is we really need some legs in the middle of the field, man. It's like I really concerned about Kobe Mainu and where he's going to fit in this team, because that's not his game. I don't think it's ever going to be his game, and we need to get an athletic player that could move the ball in the middle of the pitch. We have to, man.
I agree. Look, we were better when Mainu came on, and this is This is my one fear about when you change systems and you implement a system and you stick to it. There's always going to be casualties, and some of those casualties are players like Garnacho and Rashford that certain Man United fans loved and certain ones hated. There is, and I hate saying this, but it's the truth. Mainu may also end up being a casualty of that. And a lot of people go, but he's better than Ugarte and he's better than this guy. And he is. The difference is if he doesn't fit it either, say none of them fit it, say none of them can do the role. Out of all those players, the one guy that can raise enough money when being sold to buy the players that are needed is potentially Mainu. And that's why the club would look. It doesn't mean they think Mainu's better than Ugarte or Mainu's better than, or no, Ugarte's better than Mainu or Cass is better than him on the ball. But it's about looking at the situation and saying, well, is he going to work either? No. Which one can we actually sell and make money on? Because I think the club would jump at the chance if a Saudi club came in and went, there's 25 million for Casemiro, plus we'll get rid of his salary. I think Man United would jump on that like so quickly. The problem is nobody wants him. And as much as, listen, you could give Casemiro to Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool are selling him on the wages that he's on right now as an example. But I do agree. I hope Mainu can prove things right. What my hope is for Mainu is that if we add more pace, it will complement him. I think making him do that running, he's not a slow player. He just doesn't have that explosive speed over the first 5 yards. It's that first 5 yards of running in football is so important. It's even like Michael Owen. Michael Owen had a good top speed. But why Michael, I know he's a striker here, but it was that first 5 yards he could get away from anybody, and then he was really hard to catch. We need some midfielders that have that ability to drop a shoulder and just sprint past a player, and none of them can do it. You are right.
The way I see the season going, and I see what you're saying there, is that I think that in the back of Ruben Amorim's mind, there's going to be games where Bruno goes into the 10. I think Cunha can play kind of like as a 9.5. Same with, and then there'll be games where Mbeumo can, play up front and try to get where we're trying to, play on the counter attack. I think that's what they have in the back of their mind. And then there's also Xerxes that has a similar profile, like not like Cunha, but a little more of his 9.5. So they do need to get a striker, but yeah, they have to get someone in the middle of the field, because I think Mainu seems to show his ability when he's playing more up front, like in that 10 role, sort of in the middle. You know what I mean? Like that's where he uses his skills. But I think his natural position would be in a team like, the type of style Pep Guardiola plays, man, because he's more of a technical player that's good on the ball, smart, you know what I mean? And I just think that in this system, you have to have an engine in the middle, because that's what I'm seeing right now. We're starting to put things together, but the engine in the middle is what drives the system. That's what it seems like to me.
I hear where you're coming from. Mate. I do. Baz, I appreciate you calling in, mate, and having your say. It means a great deal to me, mate. Thank you.
All right, cheers, bro.
Cheers, Baz. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to some more of your super chats that came through here. First one says, I love some of the passes Cunha did today. Exciting. I agree. This is a win for United. This move probably makes Mbeumo affordable. Back to Ramsdale. I hate the pretentiousness of looking for better. He has a golden glove. Just focus on improving. But it's in focus on improving, but not at too high a cost. So the cost of a player that you would probably want to improve on yourself, like Arsenal did. The Arsenal bought in some players like Ramsdale and Zinchenko and Jesus with a look to improve. But then within a year or two needed better already because they jumped up a level, maybe a little bit quicker than they expected. It's fine to do that, but with our financial difficulties, we have to do it at the right cost because we spend too much money on these players and then we struggle to move them on. We're left with negative equity in the player, and that's bad for us. But overall, I get where you're coming from. About the game, it was good in some sense and horrible in some sense. We are still bad in the finishing, but we are not run through in the middle. But again, it's only Leeds. We should become better. Yeah, great breakdown. I hear you on that, my friend. And I want to ask you guys a question because we're having a debate in one of our group chats here. Who was playing the 10 at the start of the game? Would you say it was Collier or would you say it was Bruno Fernandes? In the first half, who played the 10 next to Cunha? Bruno Fernandes or Collier? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd like your view on that. Heat map definitely suggesting Bruno was playing more central, but he went everywhere. In fairness to Collier, he drifted more out to the right. Every time I kept on seeing him on the ball, he was at fucking right wing. That's the position that he was picking up in this game. So a little confusing, but some saying Collier. So you've got to say which position. You can't say Collier, which position? Ahmad and Collier was the right wing back. But that's what I saw for large parts of the game, to be honest with you. I saw him more out there. So, yeah, it's one of those. It was a little, do you know what? For me, I wasn't really focusing on that. I was looking at the fluidity, and the fluidity didn't bother me too much. The problem it was with the fluidity is that when we lost the ball, we were getting caught with holes in the team. So there we go. But look, I want to say, yeah, a lot of you are saying Collier 10. Fair enough. That's not how I viewed it, but there we go. We all see it differently, don't we? Listen, I want to thank you all very, very much for tuning into the show today. We're back later with more content for you as ever, but please hit the like button before you go. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel as well. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.